some Q&A at the end too. So, um, yeah, but a little bit before we get started, please welcome Stephanie Leghini Fiore. She serves as an Associate Vice President, Provost, and Senior Director of the Center for the Advancement of Teaching at Temple University, where she leads efforts to catalyze educational transformation that makes an impact on student learning outcomes, as well as faculty career satisfaction. Her recent research investigates how faculty role identity impacts the ability to implement meaningful teaching change. She received her PhD at Rutgers University and has enjoyed over 35 years teaching Italian language, literature and culture, immigration literature, and courses in the Teaching and Higher Education certificate. Her previous administrative roles included Director of the Italian program and Director of the Intensive English Language program. So please welcome Stephanie, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much for that nice introduction. That makes me sound way fancier than I am. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. It's a little unusual for me to be in a webinar. I'm usually in a Zoom room with so many people, and I can see you, so I can't see you. So I do encourage you to use the Q&A, and at a certain point, I'll ask you to use the chat as well, if possible. So let's get started talking a little bit about what we're doing at Temple with AI. My center is the Center for the Advancement of Teaching at Temple, and our role is to support evidence-based teaching and learning practices and to support the effective use of educational technology to help our students to learn. So when generative AI tools began to be available, starting with the launch of OpenAI's ChatGPT in October 2022, we immediately recognized this as a possible disruptor to higher education in both research and teaching and learning. And of course, our area is teaching and learning. This is a moment where we all need to be in learning and experimentation mode. And so many of us at the university are really deeply into experimentation mode with AI tools. The thing about this that I think is kind of funny is I'm an Italian professor by background, in case you couldn't tell from my name, Leghini Fiore. My daughter says that if you had asked her 10 years ago if I would be delving into AI the way I have been for the past couple of years, she would have laughed and said you were talking about somebody else's mother. But here I am. And here we all are, because this is something that is really very much a part of what is going to be the fabric of our society as we go forward. So I have what are the things that happens when we, one of the things that happens when we, I'm sorry, I can't do two things at once. One of the things that happens in these webinars and in these workshops, I like to find out where we are with AI in the room. And there's no judgment here, because honestly, it's a lot to keep up with. I have an entire team to keep up with it, and we still can't keep up. So I'm going to launch a little poll. Here we go. Let's hope you can see that poll. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and answer those questions. Have you used or experimented with generative AI tools? And the second question is, if you have, what have you used them for? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to take a look at this and see where we are. Really interesting. Give you another 30 seconds or so. So I'm seeing, as I always see, that we're all in very different places. We have everything from a few people saying, yes, I'm obsessed, and a couple of people saying, absolutely not, no, thank you. And then most people are in the middle, right? Like, well, and by the way, we hear this a lot. I haven't yet, about 22% of you, but I plan to when I have time, or, I've dabbled a bit, about 46% of you. And about 24% are saying, I'm using it quite a bit, right? Maybe not obsessed, but I'm using it quite a bit. And the ones that are using it are saying they're using it for work. They're using it for personal tasks. They're using it to find information, or maybe they're just doing fun things, right? all of that. And that is really very much, and I can share these results with you so you can see them. That is very much what is happening everywhere. And by the way, the thing that's interesting about this is that we really very much are seeing the same kind of response from students, from faculty, and from the general public that we talk to all the time. We're all in very different places with AI. And our job at the center really is to help more faculty to learn about what the capabilities of the tools are and then how to harness them where they're appropriate and how to mitigate any harms that can be a product of the use of these tools in education. So we work very closely with university libraries, the Student Success Center, the Vice Provost for Research, who provide resources for our faculty as well and for students. And this is an important part of what we're doing these days. So what is generative AI? So just want to take a couple of minutes to make sure that everyone understands what it is. And in very simple terms, because I'm not a computer scientist. In simplest terms, Gen AI refers to a category of artificial intelligence that uses what we call large language models that have massive processing power to create new content, whether it be text, images, videos, music. These large language models, or LLMs, as they're referred to, are trained using this enormous body of data from a variety of sources obtained from books and web texts, from Wikipedia, from articles, from internet forums, other pieces of writing on the internet. By the way, we've been hearing reports of them buying entire catalogs of publishing companies and things put into these LLMs. They're gobbling up as much information as they can find. The AI tools, and there are so many of them, that you and I will use are sort of like skins that draw on these large language models for their output. So it's not that there's a different large language model for every tool. Often many tools will pull on the same data source, but the tools you use will pull on those large data sources to find information. We have a nice little, generative AI doesn't have cognition, I like to tell faculty. It doesn't think for itself. It works by finding and replicating the most common patterns available in its data set. So it creates new content. It's not lifting pieces of content like you would think about plagiarism, right? It doesn't lift pieces of content in the same way. It creates new content based on the information, its data set, and it predicts what word should come next in that corpus of information. So I love this little video. This came from The Guardian. They did a little, it wasn't really a video in their play. We turned it into a video that talks about, that shows you sort of how the predictive nature of how this works. So I'm going to play this for a sec, because there's no sound, by the way. So you can see that these are called tokens. It assigns new distances between pairs of tokens. It's sort of trying to think about what's the next word here that makes sense. What is a tidy thing to eat pasta with? What is a nice thing to eat pasta with? And it's thinking through its options, right? Of course, it does this way faster, and I'll show you in a minute. So it gets the first word from rearranging your question into response, and then it just has to find what's the most probable next word. And you can see here that it chose some words, but there's weights that happen in there and all those relationships between the words it knows in thousands of dimensions. And then it looks at what the words have come before and it reweights those associations. And so tidy might have a close relationship with utility, tools might inform the output, etc. And that's how it works. So you could see, though, that it could have come up with many things. In fact, when you go into an AI tool and you ask it to a question, and then you ask it to regenerate, it'll come up with new ways of expressing it because, of course, it's pulling from this data set and it's weighting what its possible answers are, which could be many things. So it's showing you here that a tidy thing to pasta using or accompanied by for the pasta and how that can be continued like that. So just a little explanation of what that's about. There we go. So I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to get to It's Your Turn in a second. But first, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about how GPT works and how I might use it. So I'm going to switch to my ChatGPT, which is right here. This is 4.0. This is a free version of ChatGPT. Now, I do have a paid version, and it gives me some new, different kinds of capabilities. So I'm going to put this link in the chat. I'm going to ask you to open that link up. Don't get started yet. You don't have to create an account to use GPT 4.0. But in the paid version, you get some more options. So you can share the chat share the chat using a link to the conversation. You can have the response read to you aloud. You can regenerate it. You can do a number of things that you can't do in these free versions, but the free version is good enough for what we're talking about today. So here's the thing. Let me give you an example. I'm heading to the UK next week for a long vacation. Hooray! I thought I'd ask GPT to give me some guidance for my trip. So let me show you how it works. This is all about prompting, right? And some of you, of course, as we saw, have already played with this and know how this works, but I'm going to give you an example anyway. So I'm going to England and Scotland for vacation in September. Can you give me 10 things I shouldn't miss while visiting? And I'm going to hit send. There we go. And you'll see how fast it is here. And it's telling me, oh, I should go to Stonehenge. It's telling me I should go to Bath. By the way, I am going to Bath. I am going to Cotswolds, just so you know. Edinburgh, not going to Isle of Skye. And then I could ask it, let's say I would. So this would be a great way to start. I'm starting to plan a trip. I need some ideas. I've never been to this place. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to give me some ideas. And then I can go and look those places up and say, is this where I want to go? Right? I could continue this prompting by saying, I'm going to Scotland. What kind of food might I find in Scotland? And it's going to tell you, here's the kinds of things you're going to eat. Haggis. I can't wait to eat haggis. We'll see what that's like. Colon skink, shortbread, etc. It tells you like sticky toffee pudding. It tells you the kinds of things. But I'm like, you know what? Where would I find this kind of typical Scottish food? So I'm going to ask, what are some typical restaurants for Scottish cuisine? And it's going to give me some ideas. By the way, I know what the Witchery is in the kitchen, and some in Glasgow, etc. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to look these up. So one of the things I want to stress to you is that you never take the output of an AI as is, because it could be wrong. It can be made up, right? And by the way, it doesn't give you the kind of context you probably want as you're planning a kind of trip. But here's the thing I really want to ask it right now. I want to say, like, you know what? I don't want to spend a lot of money. Which of these restaurants are most affordable? And that may help me to narrow down the options that it's given me. 2 fat ladies at the Buttery. Let's go there. So here's the thing. The best way to use the tools really is to delve deeper by asking more questions, asking for more detail, interrogating the assertions it makes. It's just a starting point for thinking. I would never just take this output and use it wholesale. I would take it, I would go to TripAdvisor, I would check it with a guidebook, I would check on what it had given me. But it would give me this incredible beginning, this start, or maybe it would give me a new way of thinking about things I thought I knew answers to. We've been using it at the CAT recently for the CAT, the Center for the Advancement of Teaching. We've been using it recently to help us with things like creating cases that we can use in workshops. And it gives us some really thoughtful things that we wouldn't have thought of. And so that's where it really helps. I could have, by the way, asked it to make a packing list for me, to explain common expressions, to give me advice on driving on the wrong side of the road. Not something I'm a little worried about. And you can use it for work-related tasks. I see the number of you already are using it for work-related tasks. I've asked it to write a recommendation letter for a student of mine. I get asked to write so many. And it's not that I'm going to take it, because it would be so generic, it would be meaningless. But I can give it the aspects of the student that I wanted to focus on. I can use that template it gives me, and then I can write pieces, rewrite it. It just saves me a lot of time. We've used it to write the first draft of blog posts at our center. We've used it to write a script for a video that we were filming. And again, as a starting point and to save us some time, and also to see what it will give us. But again, never use as is. It is really very useful as a thinking exercise, as a way for us to get more information and feedback and all kinds of things that we can do with it. But we want to make sure that we use it responsibly. So now it really is your turn. I'd like you to go into ChatGPT, if you would. And I'm going to give you a sec. I want you to think about a task that's really tedious, a task that you do repetitively, something you would like more information on, maybe something you've written that you would like feedback on. Because by the way, you can do that. You can give it something and ask it for feedback. Something you think the AI could help you practice. For instance, as a language instructor, I would say it's really useful. It can speak in Italian quite well. It would be really useful for my students to be able to have little conversations as if they had a pen pal with it and have some practice. So once you put a prompt into your ChatGPT, you want to keep asking it some questions, re-prompting to get it better answers, trying to get more detail out of it and to dig deeper. So I'm going to give you a few minutes just to try it. And then I'd love you to put in the chat, what did you see? What did you think about the responses? Did you see anything that interested you or thought might be helpful? Yes, apparently we are recording, Arthur. Thank you for asking. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to just do that. It's very fast, so it should only take a couple minutes. Okay, Shannon, did it give you something useful? I want to find grants for youth programs. Love that. So the interesting thing about that is it might give you grant ideas you hadn't thought about and send you in some directions that are really helpful. It might also make up grants if it can't find what it needs to find. And so you would have to go and find those grants and say, are those real? Are those helpful? And, you know, yeah, so not really. I think I need to dig. Yes, absolutely. So that's one of the things with the tool. You need to keep digging. And you need to, by the way, it's so much fun. It can be addictive. Be careful. Don't let it take over your life. It's it's so much fun. Love that. Thank you, Shannon. Anyone else wants to? Someone else says, I asked for gift ideas for a baby shower. Great, Carolyn. I'd love that idea. By the way, it's going to reach into that giant data set and come up with all the articles it can find that are written about great gifts for baby showers. And it's going to try to give something to you. Did you like any of the ideas it gave you? It'd be interesting to see. Oh, love that. So Catherine says, finding a middle meeting point for friends who live in several different locations. I have friends that live here and here and here and here. What would be a good meeting point for us? But this is it could probably do this incredibly well because it will have access to so much information about geography. So it's probably really helpful with that. Yeah, Carolyn says, oh, the things that it offered me for the baby shower were, okay, but things I already thought of. And that often can happen, right? That you're like, okay, well, that was not. Again, one of the things about it is it's not creating new content. It's new content. Let me rephrase that. It's new content, but not based on new information, right? It's based on its data set. So stuff that's already been said, stuff that's already been done. This is not where you're going to find originality so much, but it may give you ideas you never thought of simply because it has so much in its data set. It's a good start. Good for you, Omar. Wonderful. I asked about preparing to teach for a college class. Omar, boy, I would love to hear what it had to say about that. I have to tell you, it probably gave fairly good information simply because there are so many centers like mine out there with so much information out there. I asked it to write a will in Pennsylvania. Jenny, I think that's a really wonderful idea because those are the kinds of things you go searching for and it takes you hours to go down the rabbit hole and try to find it. It may be able to find what you need very quickly. But again, you're going to want to do some checking on that and making sure that that's the kind of thing that needs to be put into your will and that works, right, for whatever Pennsylvania's laws are. So that's something that you would need to think about. So wonderful. So as you can see, by the way, for those of you who are just starting playing with this, I hope that you found it fun. It is fun. It's super fun to see what it can give you. Sometimes it makes you laugh because it's ridiculous. And other times you go, oh, wow, that was amazing. That's really helpful, right? And so both of those things can be true of AI. The other thing is that we should know is that I just, one more thing. I asked for suggestions for a 40th birthday solo luxury trip. It gave some pretty good suggestions, quite a number of locations I hadn't considered. I asked for trombone position. Now, trombone positions is such a factual thing. It's going to come up with that very easily because there's no opinion here. This is just like what it is. But the luxury trip, this is the kind of thing that happens. Quite a number of locations I hadn't considered. But one of the things we also want you to understand is that this is a storyboarding exercise we did with an AI. AIs aren't just for text. AIs can do images, it can do videos, it can do music, right? This is from an AI tool that we have access to, everyone has access to at Temple, called Firefly. It's part of the Adobe Creative Suite. And we asked it to do a storyboarding exercise like you might do in Klein College, right? Like in Klein College of Media and Communications, or that you might do in graphic design or something, right? So we asked it to, first we went to ChatGPT and we asked it to create the storyboard like text, like the description of the storyboard. And then we went in and we had it actually create the imagery. Now, the imagery is not perfect, and it often isn't. It often messes it up. I'll show you an example of one I did later. But it's helpful. And what it is for students, I think, is it gives them ideas beyond the way they think. So sometimes you'll say, oh, I need to express anger. And they think, okay, it has to be red. That may not be true. And AI may be able to give you some new ideas. So I would encourage you to, oh, I love that. Alvin says he's used AI to summarize legal or medical documents in layman's terms. That's a wonderful, actually, the medical school is doing so much experimentation with this right now. We went and did a workshop on AI in medicine recently, and we're going to do another one. They are very interested and embedded in this. We had a faculty member tell us that in the clinic, they used it. They put, because it can gobble so much data. They put a bunch of data into it, and it was able to come up with a case that helped them to solve, like to come up with a diagnosis for a patient they were having issues diagnosing, because it could gobble up so much information, right? And give them ideas. Whereas another time that they tried it, it gave them stuff that truly was not right. And so you still have to be an expert who can tell the difference between what's right and what's not right in those kinds of settings, right? But I would encourage you to play with this. See what it can provide for you. Remember, though, never take the output as a finished product. Vetting is key, and also re-prompting it, prompting it again, trying to get at better answers is the best way to use it. So how has the university responded? So as you can see, these tools are pretty powerful, and they provide content at lightning fast speeds, right? The response to the launch of ChatGPT in fall of 2022 and the spring of 2023 was all over the place. There was a lot of concern, even panic. You can understand why, right? Like if students can just put the prompt of an assignment in the tool and have it write the answer, what can we do to make sure that they're learning what we're intending for them to learn and are not instead just using shortcuts that mean that they will also shortcut their learning? And we weren't alone. I joined a national group of educational developers examining the effects of AI. I'm still in that group, and every institution was grappling with this. At the same time, there was a lot of optimism. There were a lot of questions and experimentation, information gathering, a lot of furious activity to try to get ahead of it and keep up with it, especially within our team and with the student success team under Lori Salem, the Associate Vice Provost Director of that center. Her job is student facing, mine is faculty facing. So we joined forces to start to address the issue with faculty. Our teams immediately started to delve into these tools. At the CAT, we formed a specific AI group whose job it was to read everything we can about AI, and stuff has been coming out fast and furious. It never ends. To play with tools, to figure out which tools were useful, to start to formulate ideas about how we could approach teaching in the age of AI. Lori and I did a series of talks for the Faculty Senate, for colleges, for schools and departments, as well as workshops, blog posts throughout the fall and spring in 22-23 to clarify how the tools work and to talk about potential benefits and pitfalls and to encourage calm and thoughtful experimentation. We really wanted to get people thinking about what we called managing generative AI in teaching and learning, not just deciding you're going to ban it or outright allow it, but managing it in a way that makes sense for what we're trying to teach our students, and different contexts mean different things, right? I see that Alvin says he plays ChatGPT against other platforms such as Gemini to determine the validity of an answer. I think that's a great idea, to be able to do that kind of thing. I do want to point out to you this image. You see, I put on here image by ChatGPT. I couldn't find an image that I wanted for this slide. So I went into ChatGPT and I said, hey, make me an image, and this is what I want. And I explained the image to ChatGPT, and it came up with this. But then I asked it, can you take out that beaker? I don't like that beaker at the bottom, et cetera, et cetera. And then it totally messed it up and gave me a different image that I disliked intensely. Said, no, go back to the first image and do this other thing to it. And then it changed it again and I didn't love it. So again, the image creation isn't always so perfect and can be frustrating, but it's something worth playing with at least. So the message to all of this, right? Panic, denial, optimism, experimentation, furious activity. The message to our faculty has been that we need to think about AI and teaching and learning, and we need to tackle its promises and its challenges head on. So it's important to consider the balance between the use of a tool for learning and not using it as a shortcut that hinders learning. So we want to ask ourselves, how can we prepare students for ethical and effective use of AI in future careers and learning? And we want to ask ourselves, how can we balance the use of generative AI as a tool to support learning? It's just a tool, my friends. It's just a tool. It's a technology tool to support learning while avoiding its use as a shortcut that hinders learning. So just like any technology tool, if we use it with our eyes wide open, we can perhaps reap the benefits while mitigating the pitfalls and learning to use AI well. That is ethically, and ethically is important here, and effectively is important for students who will have access to these tools now and in the future. I want to stress that ethical is a key word here. We want to stress to students and to faculty, by the way, this is actually going on in the publishing world right now for faculty who publish all the time. They're trying to grapple with what are their rules going to be around it. Can people use GPT or one of the other tools to help them write? Is that going to be okay? So people are grappling with these ethical considerations. So we want to stress that transparency of use is key to ethical use. So we're telling students, you need to cite it when you use it, just like you would if you cite something from the library, because it's never okay to pass off work you did not create as your own work. And we say to students, you need to also stay within the bounds of what the faculty in the classroom have established as the rules around AI in that class. There are some very good reasons why some faculty may not want students to use these tools for certain assignments. It depends on what the goal of the assignment is. And others may allow unfettered access because they believe it can assist. Or maybe it's because, like, for instance, journalism says to us all the time, we've been using these for years. Maybe in their discipline, they already use it and they want to make sure students learn how to do that. So that's important. The other important thing here is effective. Effective use means really understanding the benefits and pitfalls of the tools and how to maximize their potential while you're minimizing those pitfalls. So I want to talk a little bit about these benefits and pitfalls that are happening with these tools. So let's start with the potential benefits, because there are benefits. There truly are. The first is access to large quantities of information. It can potentially help students, and us, by the way, gain multiple perspectives on a topic and spark inspiration in the ideation phase of work, simply because it has so much information that it can provide lots of ideas to us, right? And so that is one of its big benefits. The other is, again, this is part of that, expands your thinking in the ideation stage of a project, especially with students who have this very narrow scope of experience, right? You may have much broader experience and you're more expert, but students don't yet. So we may want them to use the tools in ways that will help them to expand their ideas. The other is, of course, what you saw, the speed. You can gather information very efficiently, spend time focusing instead on higher order thinking skills, comprehension, analysis of information. You saw that in the demo did at the beginning. It's very, very fast. Automation of routine tasks. So those routine tasks that take up so much of our time. Me using it as a template for recommendation letters. I write them all the time, right? My colleague, Linda, recently we were doing a workshop and she used one of the AI presentation tools. There are like PowerPoint tools. It's actually one now AI built into PowerPoint. And she was like, oh my God, it saved me so much time. We had a playground at our conference last year, an AI playground, and we had like 6 different tools set up for faculty to play with. And one of them was this, like a presentation creation tool. And faculty were like, oh my, like groaning aloud, like, oh, that would save me so much time. Because honestly, how much time do we spend making these PowerPoints? The other thing is this assistive technology for students with disabilities. The interesting thing about generative AI is it has a promise to improve inclusion for certain people with communication impairments, people who might have low literacy levels that need to be improved, those who speak English as a second language, because it can improve the ease of communication and comprehension. It can be a real tool for these students. And so it is something that our disability folks are thinking about and talking about. By the way, it also does the opposite for other students with disabilities. So just saying, it has both effects. And then the conversational manner of speech and writing, which I will tell you is also a pitfall. It talks to you in very human-like ways, right? It makes AI an enjoyable discussion partner, maybe debate partner, maybe like study partner. It can refine its outputs in response to your prompts in this ongoing discussion. So it helps students to iteratively, refine their thinking, right? There's a chat. I don't think you can hear it on my phone, but there's a ChatGPT app. If you haven't used it, those of you who are using the tools, there is an app for ChatGPT, and it allows voice. I can't find there it is. It allows voice. Oh, of course, it wants me to update because I'm in a workshop. That's why. So I'm not going to do that right now. But basically, if you use the app on your phone, you can speak to it and it will answer you in a voice. So I actually have been recommending to my colleagues in my language department, this is an incredible tool for helping our students in our languages to speak and hear back a response and speak again and practice that speaking. And so that's super interesting. I like it a lot. The problem with that, of course, is that because it's conversational, the pitfall part also comes in, which is this: it can engender a false sense of trust. So the conversational manner can be concerning because it can create a false sense of trust in the content it delivers. But remember, it's just a tool, right? Think of your GPS, right? It's just a tool. If you're like me, because I commute long distances, I don't ever follow my GPS unthinkingly. My daughter did this once. My daughter told my other daughter she'd take her to the bus station. So they put Greyhound into the GPS and they kept driving. And my other daughter was like, we're not anywhere near Philadelphia. Where are we? They ended up at a Greyhound breeder. The GPS doesn't have cognition. So it basically followed this idea of Greyhound in it, and they didn't check it. So they ended up someplace they didn't want to be. So again, it's just a tool. The other thing about it is generative AI can simulate emotional intelligence, empathy, morality, compassion. For instance, in the medical field, they're experimenting with, can it help medical students to deliver bad news better? It actually does this study they did, it actually delivered bad news better than students did. But the problem with that is that it's simulated, right? It's simulated emotional response. It's not the same as true interpersonal human connection and understanding. So we need to help students to understand that is what that is. It can generate inaccurate information. It's only as accurate as the info it has. It can't reason whether or not the information is correct like you can. So it may not always provide accurate or reliable information. It has the ability to replicate outdated information, misinformation, conspiracy theories that exist in its data set. In all cases, the responses that it formulates require careful vetting to ensure accuracy. So it's important for students to take responsibility for verifying the accuracy and reliability of the information they obtain, because we want them to learn the correct information, but also develop the critical thinking skills and research skills that are going to serve them throughout their careers. I will give you a quick example. I was doing a workshop for a faculty group in art history, and they asked me to take an assignment they usually use and to rewrite it doing integrating AI, which I did. And I said to them, well, here's an interesting thing. I asked it to go to one of these museums. They always ask students to go to one of these 2 museums, pick a painting and write a paper about it. And I asked it to do that, and it did a wonderful job. The problem was it was an artist that doesn't exist and a painting that doesn't exist. In fact, when I said what the artist's name was, the art history faculty were like, huh? Doesn't exist, right? But it did a wonderful job in its made up way. It was very interesting. I had another poli-sci professor tell me when I explained to her about hallucinations, about how I can make things up, she said, "Oh, that explains it. A student quoted me in his paper, and I couldn't. I thought I was losing my mind. It was like, I don't remember writing that." And I said, "You didn't write it. The student asked the tool to quote you, and it couldn't find it. And so what it did was it made it up, and that it can do that. So be careful of that. It can generate, oh yeah, biased information as well. The training data that's used to train it, if it has biased or skewed information in it, it can replicate that. It doesn't have cognition. I had all of the theater faculty in groups ask GPT what the most influential playwrights of the 20th century were, and it was very interesting. Some lists came up. There was not one person of color on it. Other lists, not one woman on it. It was very interesting. I said, was there anyone outside the United States on it? No. I was like, as an Italian professor, I take offense, right? Pirandello should be on that list. So again, the biased information, the accurate information are real. They do exist. They have been trying to fix those issues, by the way. They've been working on them, and they're getting better, but they're still not there. So you always have to vet. This is one of the bigger issues, the lack of clarity on human authorship. It's just difficult to distinguish sometimes between AI-generated and human-authored text. People think they can do it, but by the way, there've been studies done that show we're not really good at this. And so that is problematic. It can also invent false sources. So when you ask it to cite, it sometimes cites correctly, and some tools are better at this than others, and others it just can't do that. Connected to that are some intellectual property issues. Where does the data come from, right? And this is being debated right now in the courts, specifically around AI. Where does the music come from that the data set has? Where does the text come from that the data set has? Where do the images come? And the data sets are opaque. We don't know what's in them. We can't see what's in them. So we don't know where the information is coming from. And these are really big issues that are out there, and ones that we want to discuss with students so that they understand what the issues are with these tools. And privacy issues. It uses information that's put into it. So we need to be very careful. Never put sensitive information into the tool. Never put any of your intellectual property into the tool. In fact, whenever you use a third-party app or tool, whether it's AI or not, you should never put sensitive information or your own intellectual property into the tool, because it can hold on to it, and you just don't want that. And then finally, it can widen the education gap. And here's what we're concerned about. We already have a digital divide that exists between students with means and those without. And we worry about the fact that, by the way, I pay for $20 a month for GPT-4, which is a much more powerful tool than the free versions. I also pay for Claude paid version. Other people pay for Perplexity paid versions. The problem is that the pay ones with paywalls are more powerful, right? And we're worried that as we move forward, that students with means will have access to the most powerful tools, and students without means will not. So we're already discussing with Information Technology Services what we might do about this in the future. Arizona State was the first just recently to enter into a licensing agreement with OpenAI for their university, so that everyone has access to the same tool. But of course, that doesn't change the fact that students can access other tools outside of that as well. Okay, so now that we did that, where are we now at Temple? I'd say that since that first semester of discussion and exploration, we have hit the ground running. We've been working hard to ensure that Temple is participating and aligned with the best thinking around AI and education in the field. Some of the efforts you might have seen if you were at Temple these past few years were aimed at empowering faculty to take the moment in hand and to guide students on how to think about AI. And here are some of the things we've done so that you're aware. Lots of faculty development. This is what my center does. I didn't even update the slide. I added one thing, asynchronous course on AI, because it's useless to do so. We're adding constant workshops every semester. This is just what we've done recently. And it's on multiple aspects of that. And that includes workshops, clinics, teaching circles, roundtable discussions. We do custom workshops for departments who request it. So we've been to a number of different departments to talk about AI in their particular context. It's really maybe different from some other departments' context. We often will take a common assignment, as I explained before, and redesign it, intentionally integrating AI to see what we can do with that. Can we make that AI, that assignment better by using AI? Because that's the goal, right? So we're looking to see if we can ramp up critical thinking using AI and find out what good design is with AI, and that's going to be very important. You'll see in this list here that we have included both how to use AI for teaching and learning and how to get around AI for teaching and learning. And that's, of course, not so easy, but it can be done because not every context is going to want to have students use AI. And that makes sense to us. That makes perfect sense to us. And at the same time, it can be difficult. So we do a lot of like this teaching writing heavy courses in the age of AI, or managing AI in large lectures, or in asynchronous courses. How do we manage AI in asynchronous courses? So those are all considerations that we have when we think about like what we need to talk to our faculty about. Last January's we have a conference every January for our faculty. Last January, our theme was teaching and learning in the age of generative artificial AI. And we had a keynote and a plenary speaker who are experts in the field, talking about academic integrity in AI, talking about like the benefits and pitfalls of AI to our faculty, and then like a bunch of workshops for faculty to do. And that was really helpful to faculty to get running. This is our faculty guide to AI that we have published on our website. I'm going to put that in the chat for you, actually. There you go. This is our online resource that our center created for faculty. It helps faculty make a decision about AI use in their class, how to manage AI in teaching and learning, how to communicate with their students, what they can do about their assignments. We're in the process of updating it right now. It should be updated by the end of October. We've also have a blog on our website that has done, and here's a series. We have done so many series on using AI and on assessment and things like that, so you can access that as well. We're also helping faculty to think about the academic integrity issue inherent to teaching and learning, and which is very present here. The natural wish here is that we can try to save the chat at the end. We'll try, Alvin. The natural wish here. Oh, by the way, Alvin, I can send all these links to our hosts here, to Shauna, and she can send them out to the whole group too. We're helping faculty think about academic integrity. Natural wish here, look, the natural wish of faculty was AI detectors are going to take care of this. There's these tools called AI detectors, and they're going to tell us that students are cheating. We have a license for one of those tools at Temple. It's called Turnitin. So our team and the other team that we work with did a systematic assessment of 120 pieces of writing with the Turnitin AI detector tool, and we found that it was very problematic. It could deliver false positives saying that students had cheated when they hadn't. By the way, my postdoc put his dissertation in, and it said it was 100% AI written. I mean, like, no. And it also misses cheating, and it partly misses cheating at a high level because students have already figured out how to get around the AI detectors. You can put the information into a rephraser tool, and it can't detect it very well. And as soon as you go hybrid, where you're writing part of it yourself and you're doing part of it with AI, it's terrible. So we have been saying to faculty, like, this is not the solution, right? And by the way, since then, there have been some formal studies that have come out that have shown that international students, for instance, are flagged at a whopping 63% of the time incorrectly. So certain populations who maybe their native language is not English are being flagged incorrectly often. So this is a problem for us, right? So we talked to the provost about this, and the provost put in place a policy that says if faculty want to use our AI detector, they have to go through a training that we have created, and they have to have gone through the entire training. We actually track it in order to be able to use those detectors. And part of that training is this isn't going to be the solution. You can use these as an indicator, but the truth is you really just have to talk to your students. That's what you have to do. The provost, also put in place a blanket policy on AI. saying that faculty have the right to use AI or not use AI in their classes. It's their decision. But if the faculty member has never mentioned that you can use AI, you can't. So students know that they have to have heard from their faculty member that it's absolutely okay to use it in that class. And it should be on the syllabus. Or they're not allowed to use it. It's considered academic dishonesty. It is not considered plagiarism. It's academic dishonesty. It's a little bit of a different thing, but just as bad, right? But here's the thing. There's a significant body of research on what causes cheating and what causes academic honesty. This is not new. When I was in college, the frats were keeping exams and papers in file drawers. I mean, cheating has been going on forever. What do we know about academic honesty? We know that sound course and assignment design matters. We know that connecting students to the value and relevance of what they're learning matters. Like if they think it matters, they're not going to cheat. We know that clarity of expectations matters. We know that good communications with students matter. And we know that supporting self-efficacy, that is helping students to feel like they can do it, like giving them the opportunity to practice enough that they feel like I don't have to cheat because I know how to get there. And building trust in your classroom matters. It sounds, some faculty think that's pie in the sky, and I have to tell you, the research bears it out every single time. There is so much research on this. So it's simply not true, by the way, that all students have embraced these technologies as cheating tools. We have framed it that way, and that's a problem. But we are actually doing a study with Ithaca S&R. It's a 20-institution study, and we are studying what's happening with AI in higher ed. We're part of that study. And we went to interview students in classes where AI was allowed. And those students are very mixed in how they feel about AI. Some of them were like, I had my own ideas. I didn't want to use this tool. And others were like, I feel like that's cheating. I don't want to do that. And others said, I would have liked to use it on this other assignment, not on this assignment they made me use it on. So it was very interesting to talk to them. So one of the things that we are saying is that it's really, really important for faculty to be clear in their syllabi about what their guidelines are. We've created some templates for faculty to use for them to put in their syllabi so that they can express what's allowed in those classes, because we want this to be very clear for students. We don't want students to be confused. I know we're running short on time, so I'm just going to say the other thing that we're very much involved in at the CAT, as I mentioned, the Ithaca S&R study, we're doing our own study on faculty's beliefs around generative AI and how they're using it. There are some faculty and departmental studies going on. We do a lot of scholarship of teaching and learning support at the center, and that means that faculty are doing their own studies in their own classes about AI and what its effect is on students. And so there's a lot of research going on right now because this is a field where there is none. A year and a half ago, there was no research on AI in teaching and learning, right? That just didn't exist, of course. And now, of course, we all need to be engaged in making that happen. You'll see that also a lot of experimentation at Temple, as I said. I'll give you a couple examples. Scott Burns in the Department of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences had his graduate physical therapy students prompt AI to create a generic plan of care for a health condition. And then provide a detailed explanation of how the exercises it prescribed may or may not properly address the condition described in the scenario. Students had to demonstrate their knowledge of what constitutes a good plan of care by evaluating and critiquing the AI-generated plan. This is something we often recommend to faculty, that if you can have the students use the tool to generate content, but then have the students critique that content, you're going to get to those critical thinking that you need. Another faculty member, Amy Friedman, is in first-year writing. First-year writing's been experimenting with AI. And she had her students explore ChatGPT in class, including asking the tool to write in response to previous essay prompts. Then the class collectively assessed the results and compared them to their own writing. And then they read articles that were pro and against AI with different views on AI, so that they could start discussing what did they think about AI and how did they feel it affected their writing? And does it do the same thing? Does it have the voice, for instance, that a person writing has, right? I think this discussion of voice is an important one. The CAT is hoping to provide some grant funds to faculty to work on creating AI integrated assignments and activities, but we'll have to find a donor to support that. For instance, we could release faculty from teaching one course to provide some breathing room for really experimenting with AI with some assignments. So if anyone in this call is interested in sponsoring a named grant at our center, please contact me. So here are the things to remember. Students and faculty are both navigating this new reality. So a developmental approach to faculty growth is advisable, like helping faculty to develop in this area is advisable. A developmental approach to student understanding of the ethical use of these tools is advisable. Students are new to it too. And so we need to be helping them to figure out what the right way is to approach these tools. Communication with students about AI and its implications is going to be the most important factor in this new reality. We need to be able to talk to them about why we are or not wanting to use AI tools, what they may do for us, what they may rob from us. And experimentation is the way forward. It's really the only way forward. And so that's where we are at this point at Temple and pretty much across the country, I'd say, and across the world. There are many international folks in that group that I'm on of ed developers who are very much involved in this, just like we are. So what I want to say to you as you're leaving this webinar today, and I'm going to open this up for questions, but what I want to say to you is it's not something to be feared. It's something to be managed. And we need to all be more aware of what it does. And only by being more aware can we actually manage it effectively. So that's really where we are. So apparently we are going to have access to the recording, I believe. Great.
Yeah, we got some questions in the chat or in the Q&A while you were speaking. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. It was lovely. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone did as well. But first things first, aside from GPT, sorry, what are your other favorite AI tools to use?
So I like Claude. Claude AI is a fun tool to use. Claude AI, you can put a PDF in Claude and it will summarize the article for you.
Oh.
So when you have a lot of breadth of reading to do and you're not sure if this is the article or that someone like me who does a lot of research, is this the article I want to read or is this the article I want to read? Sometimes the abstract helps with that. Sometimes it doesn't. Putting those things in Claude AI and having it give you at least a basic summary will give you an idea of whether this is the one I want to delve into deeper. And so I think that's useful for students as well in research. So we are talking to students about that one, about Claude AI. I would say, as I said, like PowerPoint AI, give it to me every day. Take some of this having to create PowerPoints away from me. That's wonderful. I would say that one of the tools that we're really looking at these days a lot is Perplexity. Perplexity is a pretty powerful tool and it has a lot of capabilities. And so I think that tool, I don't have a paid prescription to it, a subscription to it. However, I just can't pay for 5 of them. So that is one of the ones that, for instance, the College of Engineering is asking to use. They really want to be able to use Perplexity with their students. They feel like that's going to fit their needs as well. I would say if you wanted to have basic, the truth is we talk about ChatGPT because it still is one of the best LLMs and one of the biggest data sets. And it still is one of the most ubiquitous tools. And it does have a free version. So we often talk about that, but there are others that you can use as well. I can send you, if you'd like, Shauna, I'll send you we have sort of a little guide we did for like some top tools. So I'm happy to send that to you if you'd like it.
That'd be great.
Yeah, sure.
Someone else also asked, what conferences, like AI conferences, are offered for students and for teachers?
They're not AI conferences, I'd say. For students, I don't know. There's been fewer, let's put it this way, slower on the uptake for student resources. I'll say that our library just put out a student tutorial, a video tutorial for students that's really, really good. But for faculty, I would say it's not that there are AI conferences that we're going to, it's the conferences we have always gone to, but with AI focus. So for instance, I'll go to my national conference and there'll be maybe the main theme of the conference is on AI, or maybe there's a lot of programming around AI. I'd say that it's more that way than it is the other way. I will say that there's, again, conferences have always been there, but they're coming out with like, okay, just like we did for our conference, this is a conference about AI. I see somebody said, my question is there been a national research hub been created? Oh, I wish. I would say the research is still not that coordinated, national research hub. It's hard even for within institutions to have a research hub that's all on the same page because you have different needs and different goals. However, I will tell you the closest thing, the thing we're involved with, Ithaca SNR, that's 20 institutions all working together to try to find something out together. And those are all different kinds of institutions in that, from the Ivy League down to community colleges. And so I think that that's probably where we are right now, is that we're seeing these like collaboratives working for research. Yeah, somebody said
Oh,
Copilot. Yeah, Copilot uses the GPT LLM. That's right. I should do it.
um,
Dana, thank you so much, but I'm tired. Anyway,
I think our last question here, what about faculty using AI for their own research, etc.? The person wrote, I just read about TU researchers testing AI to identify breast cancer. Is there any support or convergence for faculty using it in that way?
so that's not my area. However, I do know that that's not my area. I have spoken with the VP of research recently. I will tell you this, the VP of research has a team working on what the guidelines are going to be around using AI for research and putting those out. Those are not easy to create. Honestly, there is so much debate about what the guidelines might be about using AI. But I will tell you that there are different groups of people. For instance, our computer information science department just won a huge grant to work on AI and working in the community with AI, and that is quite a coup. Somebody in that relation, somebody just I was just going to say, Dana. Somebody else said this. How could DEI be implemented with technology? So one of the things that we have to think about with DEI is what I was saying before, is we need to be thinking about access, right? That's one of the big things whenever we talk about technology. How are we thinking about access? Who has access to those tools? Do those tools help everyone? I will also tell you that, for instance, we just recently enabled Zoom AI Companion, and I wrote a ginormous document of guidelines for use of Zoom AI. And the reason is because one of the things it does is, and by the way, it's gotten worse, is it robs agency from certain people. So it comes in and it says, we are taking notes on this Zoom session, but it doesn't, it asks you, will you consent? It used to ask, will you consent? Yes, or leave the meeting. And I was like, wait, what? You either consent to wait, who has agency in this room? So I think part of it is who has agency in deciding whether or not we are able to use those tools. Who has the power in that situation is important for thinking about that. The other thing I will tell you is that there's a lot of conversation around where the server farms are for these huge large language models, and they often are located, and they are apparently an issue around ecology in some sense. And so they are often located in poor neighborhoods who can't object in the same way that neighborhoods that might be more wealthy can object and keep them out. And so that is problematic as well. There are so many things to think about with these things. When we think about teaching and learning and these tools, we always think about, so I think there's two sides to this. The other positive side, we always think about how can we mitigate harm and how can we include more students. And I will tell you, like what I said before, accessibility for students with disabilities, helping
Yeah.
students with disabilities by using these tools can be really important. So it can also do that. There's a lot in there. That's a tough question to answer in a short time. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Q&A.
Yeah, I think we just to wrap up, Shauna just put in the chat, but we do have a couple more questions. But we are running out of time. So if you want to stay on afterwards and ask Stephanie if that'd be okay with you, we're happy to do that. But thank you. Just wanted before people hop off, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate everyone coming in. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for again such a wonderful presentation. I am sure everyone learned so many things. Just to put on everyone's radar, we have a couple of alumni events coming up. So October 14th to 20th is Homecoming and Family Weekend. So make sure to check out some of the things that will be available that week, including on October 15th, the virtual Jack Carden Diamond film screening. So very exciting to tune in. That's also a virtual event. So hopefully some people can hop onto that as well. And then November 6th, we have the Greater Philadelphia Regional Network, an NIL education session and reception. So make sure to stay tuned for some information on that. And then our season of cheer celebrations kick off on December 7th. We have the Atlanta Regional Network and the Metro New York Regional Networks celebrations. And then December 12th, we'll have the DMV Regional Network celebration. And December 14th will be the Los Angeles Regional Network celebration. And then lastly, December 20th will be the Northern California season of cheer. So make sure to go to alumni.temple.edu/events to find out all of the details on some of those and be able to sign up and things like that. But just want to thank everyone again for joining, and thank you again, Stephanie, for
And
such a wonderful presentation.
I'm happy to stay and answer these few. There's a few questions in here I didn't get to answer, and if you want to stay on, feel free.
Great. And yes, like it said, we will share the recording with everyone. So make sure to look for that in your inboxes. But thank you, everyone.
So Bryn, you asked the question, how to ask the right question or the question input in the right way. I guess I'm thinking about the standpoint of reading accurate input to get accurate output. Yeah, I mean, that is all about prompt optimization. It says here, I guess I'm thinking from the standpoint of needing accurate input to get what ChatGPT ever tell a user they're asking the wrong thing? Probably not. It would try to answer your question the way it sees it, the question, and then it may not be, it'll be off base. And then you would say, oh no, I don't think you quite, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this other thing. And then it will adjust the answer to get back to what you think you want. It will be your responsibility to sort of keep prompting to get it to where you want it to be, because it will try to answer the question you ask. It will not say, oh, you're asking the wrong question. At least not in my experience. I would say to you that on the university library website, they have a whole, if you search Temple University Libraries AI, they have a whole section in there, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on AI prompt optimization, on how to do prompting better. Go ahead and take a look at that. That's really good. And it gives a lot of really good information. And then somebody said, what about using AI to help you with your resume to improve your language around your experience? Yeah, do it. I mean, give it your resume, tell it what the job is looking for, and put your resume and say, can you give me feedback on this and tell me how can I adjust my resume to fit with this job description? See what it does, because it might make some suggestions to you that you find useful. And I would say asking the tool to give you feedback on something you've written or something that is written is one of its it's one of its strengths. It's one of the things it does pretty well. So I don't think I missed any other, did I? Yes, you're right, Christine. Accurate prompting is a skill that's going to be in demand and a great tool going forward. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And that's one of the things we want to teach our students, right? We want to teach our students, like, don't just put something in and take the first thing that comes out of it. You need to keep questioning it. And by the way, the critical thinking skills around that can be serious. So it's a really important thing. I think I got all the questions. Did I get them all?
Yes, I don't see any ones that you missed, so that should do it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here with us today, and I'm happy to come and talk to you. We'll see where we are in a year.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you again, Stephanie.
You're welcome. Have a good night.